Welcome to the debate. We are deep into the fallout from PVU Uprising 138. This was the final televised event before the big one, Oblivion 2025, and, well, that night really seemed to crystallize the conflicting forces driving success right now in Project Violence.
Yeah, it definitely set the stage, and I think the central question coming out of Uprising 138 is the momentum you need for a massive pay-per-view like Oblivion? Does it favor that methodical, strategic technique, the calculated aggression? Or is it really driven more by that visceral heart, that toughness, and just pure high-intensity athleticism?
Exactly. And my position is that calculated technique and, frankly, strategic dominance are ultimately what's necessary for victory and for long-term control of the whole landscape there.
See, I come at it from a different angle. I really maintain that heart, sheer resilience, and honestly, superior athleticism, those are the defining factors for capturing the kind of transformative momentum you need to dethrone champions and really define a new era.
Well, let's look at the evidence. When you examine the most significant outcomes of the night, they were overwhelmingly achieved through cold, methodical strategy and technical precision. This wasn't about relying on raw emotion. It was calculation winning the day. Look first at the PV heavyweight champion, Caleb Knox. He didn't wait for the bell, did he? He proved the absolute effectiveness of psychological dominance by delivering that calculated, cheap title belt shot to Dash Diaz backstage. His words, "Your heart can't beat my will." I mean, that was a concise, strategic statement. It's a champion prioritizing method over mere feeling, securing a mental advantage before they even step in the ring at Oblivion. And furthermore, Rex Stone's victory over Stephen Love, that was just a clinical display of technical mastery. He wasn't relying on flashy emotion or, playing to the crowd. He used precision, executing that crushing sequence of German suplexes and then applying the surgical stonebreaker submission. Stone was operating, as they said, on a different level of execution. It confirms that cold discipline absolutely trumps what the commentary rightly called Love's plucky resolve. These two examples show reliable, calculated success.
Okay, I understand the allure of clean technique, I do. But I think that view kind of overlooks the real emotional core that generated the strongest momentum, the stuff that actually got the fans engaged. If we're talking about what actually sells the next major championship moment, what gives a challenger the belief they can succeed, it has to be heart. For me, the most powerful displays of potential were rooted in superior resilience, speed, and just sheer grit. It suggests technique alone isn't enough in Project Violence.
But is heart enough to win consistently?
Well, look at Dash Diaz. He absorbed that ambush from Knox, which you're praising as strategic dominance.
Right.
But is a cheap shot truly dominance, or is it maybe an admission by the champion that Diaz's in-ring ability is so dangerous he has to be, diminished physically and psychologically beforehand? Diaz channeled that frustration into intense focus. He declared his intention, fight me with his heart, not his technique, and asserting he broke the gate. That kind of determination, I think, is the key to overcoming established, methodical champions like Knox, precisely because that sort of unpredictable fire is what method guys can't strategize against.
Unpredictable, maybe. Unreliable, possibly too.
And we also saw how speed can just dismantle brute power. Gabriel crossed the Celestial Crusader, remember? He used that high-flying athleticism, the spectacular tope suicida, those rapid superkicks to completely overcome the pure, methodical power of Chopper Anderson. Cross's creative movement and pace defeated brute force. It wasn't about calculation, it was about dynamism. And crucially, the story of the night, in terms of sheer survival, that belonged to Dutch Ramirez. His victory over Boyd Jackson was a definitive statement on the power of toughness. Ramirez, the brawler, survived Jackson's overwhelming juggernaut offense and the explicit interference, that low blow from the TV champion Midas. He secured the victory purely through desperate grit and two decisive reverse elbows. That kind of survival shows tested championship mettle, something a clean technical submission just doesn't reveal.
Okay, let's integrate these concepts. Let's look at the main event, which was controversial to say the least. Jean-Louis Duval's victory, for me, confirms my initial premise. Emotional engagement, like Teddy Rush's high-flying energy, is easily neutralized by calculated cruelty. Duval achieved this submission, the La Révolution Française, only after employing the hidden cigarette ash distraction. This strategic, intentional villainy is simply more effective in securing wins than relying on, Brooklyn Bomber Hart. The method guaranteed the outcome.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that it was effective long-term. Duval's need to resort to the cheap shot with the ash flick proves his elegant technical wrestling alone couldn't outclass Rush's speed and creativity. The cheating was a sign of weakness, really. It was an admission that the urban ace was simply too fast, too unpredictable for his methodical approach to handle in a clean fight. You celebrate calculation, but when the calculation leads to, well, despicable cheating, it undermines the whole idea of strategic strength, doesn't it?
I disagree. Strategy is about winning by the best available means within the context of the competition. Duval had a tool, the distraction, and he used it effectively to secure the technical win, the submission that ends the contest. It allowed him to dictate the final terms of the engagement. Rush relied on pure energy, and while energy is finite, it's easily disrupted by a calculated move.
But look at the aftermath. The subsequent beatdown by the Legion, Duval, Lacroix, Hypernova. That was only stopped by the pure, unadulterated rage and high-intensity retaliation of Adam Garcia. Garcia came out, not with some counter technique, but with the steel chair and that mad bull rage. That visceral opposition is the only thing that truly halts calculated manipulation dead in its tracks, because rage operates outside the opponent's prepared strategic playbook.
You're confusing an emotional response with a strategic advantage, though. Garcia's rage might have cleared the ring, sure, but Duval still won the match. My focus is on the outcome, and the outcome was secured by method, not by passion in that instance. Exactly. So let's talk about the champion's mindset, because Knox's actions backstage were purely psychological and entirely strategic. His silent ambush of Dash Diaz, that was a clinical maneuver. It was designed to prove that his will isn't just a catchphrase, it's a strategic reality. It was designed to dismiss Diaz's standing, reinforce his perceived irrelevance. Knox has secured a mental, non-physical advantage that Diaz now has to carry into oblivion.
I would strongly disagree with that framing. Knox's action, while, it secured a shock advantage in the moment, it might just fuel the challenger's fire even further, making him more dangerous. Diaz is already dealing with the skepticism of being the gatekeeper, right? So by ambushing him, Knox has essentially validated Diaz's claim that he must fight with his heart to defeat the champion's overwhelming political and technical will. Knox has potentially underestimated the emotional depth of the guy who broke the gate. And that kind of oversight, well, that's exactly the kind of strategic misstep that champions pay for on the biggest stage.
I'm just not convinced that emotional depth translates into a reliable long-term strategy. The problem with pure fire, as you call it, is its volatility. When you rely on rage or resilience, you risk burning out or just failing if the opponent simply withstands that initial burst.
But sometimes that burst is all you need to change the game.
Which brings us back to Rex Stone. There is a predictability, a reliability in his clinical execution. Stone's victory is, I think, the perfect example of reliable momentum. He won with surgical precision, using the Stonebreaker submission, showing clear, focused discipline that promises sustained future performance. This clinical approach builds reliable, sustained momentum, unlike wins based on frantic, unpredictable survival. He earned that future main event status by being a safe, effective bet.
Reliability is one thing, sure. But intensity is what moves the needle towards a championship. Intensity is what breaks through those established ceilings. You're maybe missing the nuance of momentum here. Stone had a clean, one-on-one technical match. Okay. Dutch Ramirez faced multiple layers of adversity. Ramirez's ability to survive the juggernaut power of Boyd Jackson and the despicable low blow from the TV champion Midas, then rally for the win, that is definitive, powerful, transformative momentum. He absorbed targeted adversity from multiple angles, pure power and outside interference, and still walked away triumphant due to sheer brawler toughness.
I see why you think that, but let me offer a different perspective. Stone's clinical win suggests he can perform at peak level without needing external variables like cheap shots or, needing an adrenaline surge from overcoming adversity. That is the definition of control. Ramirez's win relied on desperation and maybe a bit of luck to survive Midas's interference, not control. Control suggests replicability, which is the cornerstone of champion status.
But replicability isn't always what the fans or, frankly, the challengers need to see. Ramirez didn't just survive. He sent a powerful, intense message to Midas that his strategy of relying on others or using cheap shots just won't work. Momentum is about the perception of the challenger's invincibility, right? And absorbing that much punishment and still winning creates a perception of indomitable spirit that a clean submission just cannot replicate. You need that tested grit to face a champion who operates outside the rules, like Knox or like Duval.
I'm still not fully convinced by that line of reasoning. Because even when we look at the athletic high flyers, their success seems rooted in established technique. Consider Bernard Wolfe, who's set to fight Gabriel Cross next. He frames his own success not around pure emotion, but around technical knowledge and global experience. He cited 2 decades of global wrestling knowledge, heavily influenced by Purorisu and World of Sport. He even stated this built an even more intense version of my style. This suggests even the most explosive athletic competitors rely fundamentally on a structured, technical foundation. Technique is the engine, and intensity is maybe just the turbo boost.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. While Wolf certainly employs complex technique, the core drive he champions seems deeply personal resilience. His motivation, as he clearly stated, is perseverance. It's fueled by overcoming that severe head injury setback and finding his way homeward bound.
But the technique enables the comeback.
The technique allows him to execute, yes, but the fuel for his comeback, the reason he has an intense version of his style, is that personal drive. Without that personal adversity, that deep desire to return, the 2 decades of global knowledge is just inert information, right? The success of Wolf and Cross, too, proves that the catalyst for championship momentum is almost always emotional, even when it's filtered through technical precision.
Well, I maintain that the events of Uprising 138 show a pretty clear delineation. Those who rely on strategy, technique, and that cold will, Knox, Duval, Stone, they dictate the terms of engagement, and they hold the key positions of power. They are the architects of the main event structure right now. Heart is commendable, absolutely, and it certainly keeps you in the fight. But precision and calculation, they dictate the outcome, and precision is profitable.
And I still believe the strongest, most enduring moments of that night were defined by the success of resilience, evidenced by Ramirez, and that explosive athleticism, demonstrated by Cross and even Rush's high spots before the finish. While technique certainly sets the stage and provides the necessary tools, true momentum, the ability to challenge established, powerful champions, that comes from a visceral, indomitable spirit. That's what allows them to overcome the technical traps and the calculated aggression.
Uprising 138 suggests that maybe the ultimate champion will need a strategic blend of both technical mastery and emotional fire. But the balance, it remains pretty unstable.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see that necessary blend fully tested, I think, in the upcoming steel cage match. It's set to pick the cold, methodical villainy of Jean-Louis Duval against the unadulterated, intense rage of Adam Garcia. That single conflict, that's likely to define whether strategy or passion will truly dominate the future landscape of Project Violence.